That my agenda should be there. Under that. Plants, trees.
This yours?
Yes. Do you need that? Who does?
Tim.
You don't have an agenda?
No, I have the whole packet. I put the agenda someplace else.
Just take mine, it's fine.
This is a work session.
Just take mine. I'm gonna be doing this.
Oh, thank you so very much. I appreciate that.
So is Mr. Farley going to make a presentation?
No.
Okay.
He can answer questions if need be. He can answer any questions if need be. As
Let me see.
Record.
Haley's having an issue trying to join it. We have to do another video here. I need to know if we're live on YouTube because I can't really tell.
And of course, we built the building in that, but we had it for 25 years. And the tribe now had it for 22.
Okay, I think we're ready to go.
Ready? Okay. Good evening. I'd like to open this North Bend City Council regular session for Tuesday, April 14th, 2020. I'd like to stand and do the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everybody here and out in cyberspace. This is first for us doing a remote council meeting, so bear with us if we make any mistakes here. So second thing is on the agenda is to approve the minutes from March 10th, 2020 and March 19th, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 3 on the agenda, approve the bills against the city.
Yes, sir. In your packet, you will find the bills presented against the city for the time period of March 6th, 2020 through April 9th, 2020. Accounts payable for $618,023.12 and ACH fund transfers of $349,704.37.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to pay the bills as presented. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next we have number 3 is public comments. We do have public comment tonight. They're going to be calling in. First person I have on the public comment is Kathy Dodd. Are you there, Kathy?
Not yet.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me now?
You can, thank you.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
okay, I had to unmute. Yeah, I'm Kathy Dodds, 613 Central Avenue in Coos Bay. And I'm speaking today about the Simpson Park trees. I just wanted to say I'm happy that it's that you're allowing us to speak about this issue before the council. And I just say it should be open to the public so we can see what's happening. And I want to say that I just want to be able to preserve the majesty of these trees, with history of this area. as a gift to the city by the Simpson. But, and obviously if trees need to be trimmed or taken out because they are crowding others and so forth. But the most important thing would be for me just to preserve the most that can be, because they are old growth trees and they're very beautiful and they're very symbolic of this area, and that it should be discussed by the public, and I hope more people can speak to this. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Kathy, appreciate your input. Okay, next we have D'Anthony Collins.
Hi, I think I'm on the, can you hear me now?
Yeah, yep, thank you.
Hey, terrific. I'm Anthony Collins, 436 Simpson Avenue. I'm a pretty avid parks user, and should mention that I work at the college with Jessica, but she didn't ask me to call in and talk to you all. So I'm urging the city to take advantage of the employees. I'm pretty sure the Parks Department has done a thorough analysis of why they need to remove a few trees to make the park viable. I want to spend my 3 minutes explaining my unique perspective on that. So I've moved to Simpson Heights about 6 years ago, and before that, so probably for the last, I don't know, 12 years, I've run more than 2,000 miles a year, much of that in North Bend. So I've been on every street, every back alley, every alleyway, every trail that goes up and down, particularly between Ferry Road Park and Simpson Park. And I'm urging the city to take a look at what, like, our Jim and Jim volunteers have done in Fair Road Park to get more traffic there. So the reason I'm calling in primarily is to get voice to the people that would be using the fantastic Simpson Park facilities, those families, those little kids, those places that need wide open spaces if we trim a few trees out. And specifically, we need to start moving our homeless population out of that area. So if we can address this, I'm not a specialist in homeless services, but I know for certain if we can move these individuals into social services and out of our public areas, we're going to do everyone a service. Thanks so much for meeting with us, you all. I'm really glad to see you.
Thank you. Next we have Susanna Nordoff. Are you there, Susanna?
I have to find her.
Yes, good evening, and appreciate the opportunity to comment. My comments are again in relation to the tree plan removal in Simpson Park as follows. There are two problems with the tree removal plan in Simpson Park. First, the Parks Advisory Board, which is cited as having approved the plan, is in violation of Oregon public meeting law's requirements for agendas and meeting minutes. The Oregon General's Public Records and Meeting Manual states the public meeting law applies to any governing body of a public body, and if two or more members of any have the authority to make decisions for or recommendations to a public body on policy administration, they are a governing body. So therefore, the Parks Advisory Board needs to keep minutes as well as publish its agendas, and they have not done so. Second, it's clear to me that the plan for removal of 19 trees has never been discussed by the Parks Advisory Board. Only Simpson Park Update appeared on the agenda for 3 of the last 4 meetings. In October, the board heard only about taking out shaded trees along Union Avenue and the sequoia north of the playground. No meeting minutes were kept. I'm afraid of the result. Simpson Park has the beauty of green lawns circled by mature conifer forest. Superintendent Owen wants it to be the perfect playground park with lots of sun, small trees, and large parking lot. It wasn't created to be the perfect playground park. It was created to be a lovely space dominated by big trees. It's a shady park. The trees were there first. We realize the tree maintenance is necessary and some trees may have to go, but we would disagree with cutting healthy trees. Most importantly, it should not be within one man's authority to make that decision. Council must uphold compliance with Oregon Public Meetings Law. Please send the tree removal plan back to the Parks Advisory Board for a legitimate review. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Next we have Natalie Ranker. Are you there, Natalie?
Oops.
Hello. Yes, I think I'm unmuted now. I'm sorry. I'm also commenting on the trees in Simpson Park, and I was on the Parks Advisory Board from 2016 through 19, and as Susanna just stated, the cutting of trees and the trimming of trees was not discussed, at least through last October the 9th, and there has not been a Parks Advisory Board since then. I think the only site visit was when Brian took the City Council over to the park to show you the plans. But this was, the Parks Board should have been taken out there so that we could have observed. And when I went out there today, pretty much what I saw, I'm in agreement that several of the trees along Union are too close together, but yet there are also several large firs that appear to be incredibly healthy, and they perhaps do shade a portion of the playground at certain times of the year, but the sun moves from south to north, and that's not a continual thing. And but I think the main thing is, to me, it sounded like yesterday at the work session like Brian wanted to cut the larger trees and then to replant smaller ones. But this is Brian's vision. When I think of trees in North Bend, I think of evergreens. I think of firs, and I think it's a very necessary thing for these firs to be a part of the park. And to take all of the firs along Union Avenue is not the right thing, and it should be treated as it is, as a mature conifer forest, and not a place to take down these large trees and then to plant smaller ones, probably deciduous, maybe some fruit trees. I really don't know what the plan is, but this isn't typically North Bend. This is what happened at Ferry Road Park, and a lot of the neighbors were not in agreement with that, but they were never consulted as well. And I think it would be appropriate to take the plan back to the Parks Commission as they are now, which I guess it would have to be a virtual meeting, but to take it back for discussion, to have an on-site inspection, and maybe even to put it out to the citizens of North Bend, because a lot of them are very very fond of Simpson Park and very fond of the trees there, and I feel that it would be appropriate to consult them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Natalie. That concludes our public comment portion. We're going to move on to agenda item number 5, which is Resolution 3275, a resolution of the City of North Bend declaring certain personal property to be surplus property and providing for the disposition of such property.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yep. Go ahead, Chief.
Hi there. This is Jim Brown, Fire Chief. Basically, what we're doing this evening is we're asking to dispose of 9 sets of chairs that we've had in our meeting room, which also plays the purpose of the city's Emergency Operations Center. These chairs were donated to us from Horizon Air probably 15 years ago, and they've done a very good job. They're big and bulky. we've been able to change our meeting room, emergency operations center around to give more flexibility by putting regular office chairs in there. The last time we had the emergency operations center up in place, it took quite a while for us to move these bulky chairs around. Gave us a good idea to make it more user-friendly, to be able to move things around a lot quicker, and it's been a very good thing for us at this point. In disposing of these, we've asked any other city department if they're interested in having these chairs. No one had an interest. We asked some of our outside partners, the Oregon Youth Authority. They said they would take 2 of them for their lobby. And so those 2 we have allocated, and the rest of them, our plan of disposal is just to take them over to the recycle center.
Okay, we talked about this yesterday in the work session. Does anybody have any comments on this?
I got a comment. If you're gonna throw them out, I'd have you put them behind my shop at Lamco, and I bet you that somebody in the public will make them disappear very quickly.
So,
Mr. President, I move approval of resolution 3275.
okay, a second. Motion in a second. Any more discussion? All in favor of resolution 3275, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Next on the agenda, number 6 is Davis Shows Public Assembly Permit Request.
Yes, sir. The city code, section 9.04.030, subparen 9, requires that the city council take action to permit organizations providing, among other things, general entertainment. Davis Shows Northwest operates a carnival each year at the Pony Village Mall parking lot during the weekend of Mother's Day. Because of the conditions with COVID-19 that we find ourselves in, typically council has approved the permit and the show goes on. In this particular time, because of the requirements for social distancing, staff would ask that the council tentatively approve a temporary permit for Davis Shows Northwest to provide the show as long as the governor relaxes the social distancing and crowd limits. Should the state retain the current limits on crowds and social distancing, the city would refund the permit costs and the event would not be authorized to happen.
Okay, so do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to tentatively approve the temporary permit for the Davis Shows.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on item number 6, Davis Show Public Assembly Permit Request. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, number 7, request allowance / variance approval for private drive improvements on Hamilton Avenue, north of Florida Avenue.
Okay, Ralph, are you there?
Ralph, you on?
Well, he doesn't have a mic. I don't know if this is him or Captain Ben. Let me see. We'll see if this is him. I don't know if it is.
This is Ralph.
There you go.
Hey, Ralph.
Okay.
Good evening, Chairman and members of the City Council. Mr. Dixon has requested that he be able to build a driveway, which was attached in the packet, on the part of the right-of-way, the easterly half of the right-of-way of Hamilton Avenue, north of Florida Avenue. At this time, that's a gravel road. Florida and Hamilton are gravel roads, and to the north of that junction basically is a wetland fringe and a little bit of slope adjacent to Mr. Dixon's property. Staff reviewed this proposal and we came up with 5 conditions that we recommend for approval. One, that no fill should be placed closer than 18 feet of the center line of Florida. No fill should be placed in a wetland without appropriate DSL Corps of Engineers permit. No fill shall be placed over our existing sanitary because that could cause issues. No fill should be placed west of the center line of Hamilton because technically on an unopened right-of-way, Mr. Dixon has rights once the public releases theirs to that easterly half. And that the property owner shall sign the non-remonstrance agreement for the improvements to adjacent Florida and Hamilton Avenue to the south, should that ever become an LID. And that's our recommendations, staff recommendations, that council approves of variance and allows Mr. Dixon to continue with his construction project.
Okay. We talked about this yesterday at the work session. Any more questions on that from anybody?
I'll make a motion that we approve the allowance variance approval for the private drive on Hamilton Avenue of Florida. Subject to the conditions that the city engineers put on it.
Second. A motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 8 is authorize city staff to enter into an agreement with Coos Bay North Bend Water Board to maintain unpaid portion of Madrona Street. Ralph, I think that's you.
Yep. That is me also. What the water board is doing right now is replacing an 8-inch water line in over 1,600 feet of Madrona Street from Virginia to Maine, just a little bit past Maine. Their proposal of what they're under contract with K&E Excavating to do at this point is to pave to 4 inches in depth the 3-inch strip that their water line, or 3 foot, excuse me, not inch, 3 foot strip that they've taken out from replace the water line. I've been trying to negotiate with them instead of putting a patch back in on a road that we're going to replace. I currently have design about 90% complete and plan on putting a project out at the end of this week or shortly thereafter to repave the remaining portion of Madrona, replace 400 feet of sewer and 700 feet of storm sewer. Rather than them paving it back and us tearing it back out, I'm suggesting they use their $47,000 worth of pavement repair monies to facilitate the city's need, which would be full width paving of lanes adjacent to pavers pave typically between 8 and 16 feet in a full width paver. Madrona Street's 35 feet wide, so they would pave it in 3 strips of equal width. So what I'm asking them to do through a change order to their contract is pave back full width so we don't have $47,000 of asphalt I have to tear out later and spend the same amount of money to put it back. What that requires at this point, because they're under contract, their contract is through June 15th, but if you've been out on Madrona, K&E Excavating is almost to Maine and installing the water line now. There'll be about another 2 weeks testing and tying in services, and then probably paving the 2nd or 3rd week of May. So what I am requesting that you authorize the city manager to enter into an agreement with the water board based on the premise that we get the paving we want and we will maintain the unpaved portion, because they're basically using their asphalt money to do full lane width instead of paving 3 foot widths, and we'll maintain the remainder until no longer than I actually have in their proposed contract, no later than August 1st, 2021, which we will have our segment tore out and repaved. And again, this is just utilizing their money on a final product instead of a temporary product.
Makes sense. Okay, any questions on that?
So in essence, we're asking for approval from the city council to enter into an IGA with the water board with authorization for myself to sign the agreement once it's finished.
So moved. And
We have a motion and a second. Any more questions on it? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, number 9, request approval to pay Umpqua sheet metal for HVAC air handler repair.
Kaylee was
Kaylee?
she was having some technical difficulties. Oh, she can't talk.
Okay.
Her mic's dead.
Okay, so
Can
as
you
we
hear
heard.
me? Is it working?
Hey, you're live.
It is, okay. Good deal. We're requesting approval to pay Umpqua Sheet Metal for their repairs on our air handler system. As we discussed yesterday, repairs are complete. We have heat and we have automatic control over our environment again.
Fantastic. Do we have a motion on that?
Make a motion that we pay the bill as presented.
Second?
Okay, we have a first motion and a second on the request approval to pay Umpqua sheet metal for the HVAC air handler repair. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
10. Thank you, Ken. Number 10 is a request to purchase emergency services radio system from Communications Northwest.
Or eBay, depending on which one you buy.
We've done the eBay thing. I think we'll pass on that option.
Welcome, Chief.
Thank you. President and councilors, we discussed this issue last night. And let me correct myself. I'm learning a lot about radio systems as we go through this. And I was corrected today by our technology experts that this is actually not the radio system that we're replacing. This is the dispatch system that we're replacing, which goes out over the radio. So the dispatch system that provides communications for the North Bend Police Department and the North Bend Fire Department was installed in January of 2008 at a cost of $123,975. At the time, it was intended to reach end-of-life service in 7 years. That would be in 2015. The system is 5 years beyond end of life and has been experiencing critical malfunctions that have been irreparable, including switching frequencies to and from Coos County Sheriff's Office for no apparent reason and without user input. Additionally, replacement parts are only available on eBay from decommissioned systems from around the country and are becoming almost impossible to locate. The city budgeted $250,000 for a radio and dispatch system modernization in fiscal year 19 and 20 to replace and modernize the system. NBPD staff sought quotes from 2 providers of radio and dispatch systems, Day Wireless and Communications Northwest. Both quotes were included in your packet. Day Wireless several years ago was asked for general figures on replacement of the radio system, provided figures in the $450,000 range. After seeking a firm quote in this process, Day Wireless provided the attached quote for a telex system for a total cost of $67,623.80. Staff conducted an investigation of the telex systems in use by other agencies and found that agencies using the telex system had reliability problems and significant delays in repairing the system due to the absence of available techs in our area. Furthermore, radio technicians consulted on the system recommended going with another solution other than telex. Technicians from Day Wireless who currently service our radio system and dispatch systems generally take between 2 and 7 days to initiate repairs in our current system, even during critical malfunctions, meaning we're off the air. The life expectancy of the Motorola portion of the telex system is 7 years from the date of the manufacturer discontinuing the product. No time estimate was given for discontinuation of the product. Therefore, we have to assume the life expectancy will be 7 years as it was with our old system. Staff reached out to Day Wireless and asked for a quote for a different system and were told that they would need to employ their engineering staff and could not provide a quote for another 30 to 60 days. Communications Northwest was also sought for a quote in this process, and they provided a quote for a Tate Avtech radio system, dispatch system, for a total cost of $143,188.96. Staff conducted an investigation of the Tate and Avtech systems. Staff found that agencies using the system had only experienced user-initiated problems. In other words, they pushed something that they didn't intend to push or threw a switch they didn't intend to switch, and have had no reliability issues with the system itself. The system is upgradable and could be integrated into a countywide system should a consolidated dispatch center ever be realized. Technicians can be on site within 24 hours to initiate repairs should the need call for it. The Communications Northwest quote also provides for training of staff on the new system. The life expectancy of the Tate Avtech system is 15 plus years, although Communications Northwest indicated that it might be expected to last much longer than that. Communications Northwest indicated that the software upgrades continue to update the system and should not ever require a significant one-time investment again, which is good for the city for planning for the future. The software upgrade cost is about $5,000 annually. And I should point out that we do pay Day Wireless currently for maintenance in the amount of, Captain Bennett, if you're on, I want to say that's about $3,300 annually.
27, if I recall correctly.
Okay.
And change.
So given the investigation and the quotes, staff recommends purchasing a radio system from Communications Northwest at a cost of $143,188.96. This recommendation is based on reliability, life expectancy, prompt technical servicing, and flexibility of the system in expansion or consolidation situations with other agencies. Questions?
So Chief, yesterday we talked about the city of Coos Bay.
Yes.
Is it basically the same system that they're also having issues with, their dispatch?
Correct. In fact, several weeks ago, we actually dispatched for Coos Bay for about 9 days because their system was down and they could not get it repaired.
Okay. It would be nice if everybody bought the same system and then everything rolled into one.
Well, we got 2 out of 3 if this passes. So.
Thank you for your presentation, and for last night I was a little horrified when I heard some of the things that happen when it fails and the crossover. It's a little bit alarming, so I'm glad that we've budgeted for this. So I'm learning about radio systems too and trying to understand where the county's coming from. So this system is a dispatch system.
Correct.
Some things that have been kind of out there recently about what the county has, that's the overall. Is that the overall radio system?
So from our perspective, from North Bend's perspective, there are 2 main components to the system. The dispatch component, which sends out the signal, and then the towers, which grab the signal and then repeat it out to where you want it to broadcast. This quote is for our dispatch system. The county's plan, which is included in their levy request, includes our 2 towers. So those 2 towers are not part of this request for radio system replacement. It is part of the $250,000 that we budgeted for, so that if the levy fails, we will need to upgrade those towers. Last year we had our Metman tower down for about 2 weeks, waiting for parts to come in or find parts to come in order to repair that tower. So we do need to make those upgrades. They could be part of the levy or they could be part of the budgeted dollars that we already had in place.
So how soon would they be assembled, put together and operating?
This system? I'm going to defer that question to either Kevin Farley or Scott Riley, who should be on.
Yeah, Kevin, go ahead.
All righty. In general, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. In general, from purchase order to installation, we're looking at 6 to 8 weeks. We can expedite that if need be, but that's kind of the typical.
Chief, how many dollars are we looking at for the towers?
It depends on what are, at worst case scenario, we're looking at 97,000. Best case scenario is we may not actually need 2 towers, but we need to refer back to our rough order magnitude mapping quotes to make sure. So.
Any more questions? Could I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to authorize the purchase of the emergency services radio system from Communications Northwest. What your recommendation was, right? Yes.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We have other business with Chief. Can we take care of this now?
Sure.
Okay, go ahead, Chief.
So along with that dispatch system has to reside on servers. And our current servers do not have the capacity to hold that system. The servers that we need are actually also part of the budgeted amount. And they are can be purchased and installed by our on-site IT person, James Ingram. He sought quotes from CDWG and Second Gear for both the servers as well as the UPS, the backup power systems for those servers. Today, we got a quote from CDWG. As of last night, we didn't have that second quote. Their quote came in for 2 servers at a cost of $38,607.68. Second Gear quoted theirs at $12,333.76. CDWG did not provide a quote for the UPS. We did receive a quote from Cyber Power Systems for 2 UPSs at a total cost of $3,358. So our recommendation is to purchase 2 servers from Second Gear and 2 backup power supplies from Cyber Power for a total cost of $15,691.76.
So what was the quote from CDWC?
$38,607.
What's such a difference?
You know, I'm not sure. James probably could answer that question better. He indicated that he has been purchasing almost everything lately from Second Gear. I believe that the Second Gear quote may have been, they may be refurbished systems, but they come with as good a warranty, as long a warranty as the original purchase. So.
Any questions on this? Have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we purchase the 2 servers from Second Gear for $12,333.76, and the 2 UPSs from Cyber Power for $16.79 each, for a total of $15,691.76.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
You bet. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the award bid for tree removal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I have Brian come up and provide the business portion of that agenda item, I'd like to provide the council and the public with some additional background information to dispel some of the comments that are being put forward. The city is proposing to remove 19 trees and trimming 23 others as a means of managing the park for the entire community and for the safety of those using the park and its facilities. As council might recall, and as the public might recall, 4 years ago, we went through a process of having a planning commission public hearing and a conditional use permitting process to update and redevelop Simpson Park. We went through the planning commission process. We were granted the permit. The permit was challenge. We wound up hiring a hearings officer, going through the same issues that are confronting us again by members of the public who are also fully involved in the former effort to stop the city from maintaining the park for the entire community. That being said, as an outcome of the hearings officer and the planning commission decision, the city embarked on redoing our park master plan. It was coming due anyway for updating as part of our comprehensive plan elements. That was accomplished. We also undertook a tree risk assessment study that looked at the trees at Simpson Park, which allowed us to move forward with removing the trees that we had previously identified as dangerous, and they were certified as dangerous, most of which we removed, some of which we did not at the time. And third, we wound up with the Oregon Department of Forestry assisting us in developing a Simpson improvement plan. And as council might recall, when we brought in the state's urban forester, she responded in correspondence with me they actually had the state committee come down and look at Simpson Park at the time. And she described it as dark, dank, and dangerous. In fact, at the time, the State Urban Forestry Commission did not even want to stay in the park to look at the trees because of the condition of the park and the trees therein. In fact, in the report, it noted that there were sufficient hindrances to allow the park to be fully utilized because of its overgrown nature. It was not allowing sunlight in for both the trees and for the public. Nevertheless, they provided the plan, which we have also looked at and undertook in addressing the improvements to Simpson Park. I guess the best way to say it is there are no old growth trees, contrary to what some of the comments that have come in on email and what some people say. There are no old growth trees, nor are there trees of historical significance in the park. That was an official determination made by the state of Oregon back in 2011, after an application was submitted to them. Additionally, going back even further, since they always want to bring up Mr. Simpson and the property being conveyed to the city, the park has had many uses over its lifetime. One of the first examples of the use of the park was when Mr. Simpson, as part of the requirements of initially granting the property to the park, required for the first, I believe it was 5 years, that Simpson Development Company hold a seat on the Parks Committee. While he was sitting on the Parks Committee, the first item of use of that park was for a car park, essentially a late 20s, early 30s, 1930s version of an RV park that lasted through the mid part of the 1930s. It was closed down because Mr. Simpson and other people that lived at that end of Union Avenue were complaining about the types of people that were then inhabiting the woods. Interestingly enough, we seem to be repeating that. In addition, there was raw sewage flowing through as a result of the people utilizing that. From there, it transformed from being a car park to they built cabins there that the city operated. We had a park superintendent who maintained those facilities, and the city rented them out up until the late 40s, when they were torn down for the most part. Brian's way former predecessor actually wound up, well, anyway, we won't go into that part of the history. It involved guns and shooting at ex-wives and things like that. But essentially, and then if we move forward even a little further, or well, Simpson Park used to also encompass what is known as Ferry Park, Ferry Road Park. During the construction of the McCullough Bridge, the city gifted that portion of Simpson Park, that we now know as Ferry Road Park, to the Oregon Department of Transportation to assist in the development of the McCullough Bridge. Once the McCullough Bridge was finished, that property remained in ODOT's hands up until the late 50s. And it was used as a highway maintenance yard. There were, we can see, we have pictures of gravel piles there. I mean, there were no trees. It was a working industrial site that has since come back to the city, back in the early 60s when ODOT decided they no longer needed that. So essentially, the park has had many different lives in the past. It's going to have many different lives in the future. The park usage changes with the times to match the requirements of the public. The original trees are no longer there. They never were when the city retained the park from Mr. Simpson. Part of the Simpson deed restrictions was that part of it was to be remaining a pasture. Well, and that's the part that we're really talking about now, that upper portion between Union and the railroad track. Well, the trees that you see that were planted there were planted there. They're not natural trees. There's a variety of trees. In fact, in the study that the Forest Department did, Oregon Forest Department, there are 41 different kinds of trees that are located throughout the entire park, not just right where we're talking. In addition, there's been some misunderstanding about the Park Advisory Board. According to the city code, the duties of the Park and Recreation Advisory Board is either on its own or at the request of the City Council or the Planning Commission. It's to evaluate any existing and proposed park, playground, swimming pool, community center, and other public areas over which the city has jurisdiction, and to make recommendations to the council concerning the location, character improvement, creation, acquisition, beautification, use or abandonment of such areas and facilities. In addition, it says, for the officer, the chairman shall make reports and recommendations of the board to the city council as provided in this chapter. For most of my time in tenure in this city, there have not been minutes that have been presented to the Planning Commission. The Park Advisory Chairman is the mayor, and when there were matters that were brought up to the council, it was either the mayor reporting to the council under council reports as to what transpired with the Parks Committee, or the park superintendent provided the report. Going back to the issue regarding the Parks Advisory Board meeting that was claimed that did not happen, on January 29th, 2020, the city posted on its website a Parks Advisory Board meeting that included an agenda. The agenda has listed as number 1, Simpson Park Office Update. Number 2, boat ramp update. Number 3, shelter/restroom at Simpson. Number 4, location of parking lot next to playground at Simpson Park. 5, views on possibly removing some trees around the play area to allow more sunlight into play area for safety issues, for more room to install parking, and number 6, public comment. That agenda was also placed on the website. In addition, on that February 3rd meeting, Parks Committee members and attendants were Gina Brown, John Buckley, Janet Rubin, Mark Lowe, the mayor as chairman. There were 5 out of the 7 members present. In addition, Susanna Nordoff was also present, during which time a packet of materials was handed out, which included the photos of the trees that were identified by the park superintendent as being ones that he would recommend that the committee remove. Furthermore, that report was then forwarded to the city by the mayor in his report at our last meeting, wherein he reported that the board met and recommended that they supported the recommendation of the park superintendent. And in addition, that staff then at the work session preceding that meeting had council go out to the Simpson Park, look at the park building development that was out there, the new offices and work area, as well as review the trees at the park. The following regular council meeting, staff inquired if council wished for staff to proceed with soliciting quotes for the removal of said trees at a regular public held meeting and advertised council meeting, to which the response was yes, wherein Superintendent Owen proceeded to contact 4 vendors to solicit prices from them for the removal. So essentially, what I'm saying is the arguments that are being brought forward as a reason to oppose, we have heard in the past. We have gone through the process of updating as many plans and procedures that we can think of to address those concerns. Essentially, right now, what we're being faced with is simplistic, salacious, shady arguments made by people who are not understanding that the purpose of the park is for all of the community members of North Bend. It's not a demesne, it's not a forest. The city is not undertaking logging. We are undertaking selective tree removal to enhance a portion of the park for those people in our community to utilize and enjoy the redeveloped play area that we have. And with that, I'll turn it over to Brian.
It's hard to follow. Wow.
Thank you, Jerry.
Yes.
That was very well said, Terrence. You know, I'm just a little confused of why taking out 19 trees is being such an uproar. The ones on Union, I don't know, most of you were around, I think in the 90s when we had that really hard western storm. We had probably over a dozen trees that fell into the park, and they fell from the west into the park itself. A lot of these trees along Union, I'd be more worried about if I lived in the homes across from Union. Those would very easily reach those. If we got a really hard eastern wind, those trees will reach the playground. I am more into safety and sunlight into the park than I am about a few people that think that these trees that are historical should not be removed. I talk to a lot of parents out there. They want the sunlight. They want the safety. I've not yet heard one negative response from anybody that I've met down there in the park with their kids. We have 19 trees we want to remove. It's not a big deal. We have over 400 trees in that park, in that area, that I went down and I counted and I quit counting. And most of those are fir trees and different types of trees. 19 trees for safety. It's not a big deal. Some people are making it a big deal. We've spent in the last, I can't believe I've been here, Parks Superintendent for 12 years. But we've planted well over
all the total, by the way, Brian.
34. Yeah, I don't look that old, I know, thank you. But we planted over 150 trees in various parks throughout the city. I'm not a tree hater. I want safety, I want sunlight, I want trees that go with parks. I've had people that one person said something, by the time it got to the third person, it was totally blown out. And people say, well, that's not what we heard or what we read. Okay. We're not cutting down the redwoods and the cypresses like it's being publicized. We're not doing it. The only redwood is the one by the playground because it is not a safe tree. It's been blown out. It has 3 shoots up there. And for those of you that know trees, when you have a blowout and you've got new shoots going up, that is the weakest part of that tree right there. And that could very easily go over. Well, to make this short, I'm recommending, I received 4 quotes from tree companies to have 19 removed and 21 trimmed, and Blue Sky Services came in and preservations for $14,960, and that's what I'm going to recommend. So, yes, ma'am.
And I would imagine that you and your department cut down the ones that you have the equipment for, that are safe for you to do, that you guys are doing part of the work, but these are the
Absolutely.
ones that you cannot do.
Correct. There's a lot of stipulations anymore for city employees and insurance companies.
Yeah.
I would like to try it. But they
So
won't
this
let me.
also includes the stuffs being ground down.
Everything.
2 feet below
Mm-hmm.
Ground level.
Correct.
This one, and that's included in this bid.
Correct. And they need to understand too that, you know, I've been in the parks, like I said, a long time. I have visions, which sometimes keep me up all night. But I think once a few of these trees are out, not going to make a big difference, and we lift all the limbs in the park, it's going to look absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. You know, a lot of these trees too, they say are healthy. Yes, they are. But when trees are crammed in so far and they try to grow and outgrow each other, you don't see the damage up there in the top. You only see the healthy part in the bottom. But I see them every winter and every summer when I have to pick up these big limbs in the park because of the winds.
Right.
Yes, sir.
First of all, I appreciate the history and the background there, and I think that's important to have to understand what's going on. And you were talking about misconceptions. You know, part of the original blow we heard is, oh my God, the majestic redwoods are disappearing and so forth. And realistically, the redwoods are being trimmed up.
Correct.
And actually that won't disturb the canopy in the area that's actively growing for them. And it will create more light for the areas underneath on that set. So your redwoods are fine. You know, they're not a native species, but they're fine. I have a giant sequoia in front of my house that I planted as a plug in 1986, and it's 70 feet high and about yay big around. So they do that way. And the others truly do make sense because this is a parks area that we have a wonderful playground facilities at, and there are lots of people that want to use it as soon as they can use it that way. I think one of the things that minor in a way, but important is the X's on the trees. There was some way we had a red X for removal and a yellow X for we're trimming this thing. That would have belayed a lot of the, oh my God, what's going on with everything that way.
Or if somebody would have called me and I would have met them down there and walked them through it. That's why we did the ribbons. So we knew the orange were the ones to remove, the pink were the ones to be trimmed. All I see was things in the papers and on social media. No one called me to say, let's take a walk.
And let's assume people are watching, because I hope they do, because it's their city government. You can call any of us
Absolutely.
And we're more than happy because it's our city, your city, and we're more than happy to explain what goes on, any department, any issue, any item, and we'd appreciate that more than you trying to figure out what's going on. Come on down and you can see what's going on. I believe it's a good and solid plan. It's one which is going to utilize and take this park area to a new level. It will also create habitat underneath that canopy now, which does have light in that, so far as whether it's flowers or grass or whatever it happens to be. And I have to mention, although there's some that are concerned about, the improvements you made at Ferry Road Park have been wildly successful.
Absolutely.
People love to have the open area. People feel secure in that open area, and they feel okay about having their kids run out and do things. So I believe your focus and the focus that the city's taking the park system has been an excellent one. You work hard, you're prudent about what goes on, and really the council is, the council are people that live here, and we're interested in having not only a good today, but a good tomorrow. And that's the only reason why we're investing time and energy into this thing. We appreciate the staff that we have that do that. So I think, you know, you walk through it many times, you've come up with a very good plan this way. The Regal Redwoods are still going to be there. They're just going to look a whole lot better.
A lot better.
And I do believe citizens of North Bend and those that come to visit, you're going to enjoy the facility that's there. So this is, to me, a good plan and one that's been well taken care of. And especially appreciate the historical background material that you brought in.
And you're so right that at the time, had we come up with an easier way to identify what was going to happen, that would have probably been a whole lot easier.
Yeah, then you start getting the sit in a circle and tell the tale. Oh God! And by the time it gets around the other end, oh geez, they're going to nuke everything.
Yeah.
And with the additional playground equipment prior to the closure, I've never seen the traffic in that park.
It's
to that
unbelievable.
degree, it's just amazing. The amount of people
Unbelievable.
parking every place. So your usage is way up.
And it's going to go way up even more.
Okay, any more comments?
I'd make a motion that we award the bid as presented to Blue Sky Tree Service and Preservation, $14,960.
Was there some additional piece on that?
Nope.
No, that was.
It had the grinding and everything?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all inclusive.
Yeah. That was my mistake last night.
Okay.
I usually make a lot of them.
Motion,
Second.
got a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Brian, what kind of time frame was he looking at, you know?
Can I let you know? I would say no more than 2 weeks.
Oh, that's fine.
So,
That's
yeah,
fine.
yeah. So I appreciate your support in this. I know it's a tough one for all of us, but I think we're making the right choice. I really do in the long run. So
Thank you.
I agree. Thank you.
Thank you.
So next on the agenda is the city administrator's report.
Yes, sir, I have a couple of items. The first is that the Cruise Health and Wellness has asked if the city council would consider waiving the planning fees for them to have a conditional, temporary variance for utilizing Baycrest in the event that the coronavirus hits our area hard and needs a relief valve for the hospital. They would either develop essentially that eastern wing of Baycrest, which I believe 62 rooms in that, to either offload some of the non-COVID cases from the hospital or those that are recovering from COVID into that. They would require a planning commission public hearing, would be a type 2 land use, and what they're asking is would the city consider waiving that fee for Coos Health and Wellness.
And how much is that?
Oh, it's like 300 and some odd dollars plus, it's essentially for the notifications and the public notices that we mail out to the individuals in the area.
Who is doing that? They are actually doing that? It would be their project, or would it be?
It would be Coos Health and Wellness would be the applicant.
And who would be their backup?
Well, it's the county essentially. Yeah, Coos Health and Wellness is the county health department.
And then the units would be operated under the hospital.
That would be all part of the plans that they would need to bring to the planning commission as to what kinds of patients would be there, what types of improvements they would need to be, how they see as, the long-term or the intermediate term and the short-term use of the facility. At this point, Council may remember at our last meeting, I told you that the Corps of Engineers had come and reviewed both that and St. Catherine's Old Memory Care Unit over on Kentucky. Once those reports come in, I think they'll have a better idea. But because it's a land use issue, it takes time, and the request, I think, is they're trying to potentially beat any kind of wave of cases at Bay Area Hospital.
Nationally and statewide and whatever, we got people sacrificing tons of stuff and sometimes their lives to get through with this particular thing. And to me, $300 is sort of a minor piece for North Bend to contribute to say, can we have this, let's move it along and get the facility set up and have that option if you need it.
We need a motion.
I would, yeah, consensus works, either way.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
The community partner.
Okay, the second is, last night it was brought up, we had a discussion about South Coast Food Share wanting to utilize the community center for part of their food packaging and distribution efforts. I guess what I'd like is if you don't have any issues, allow staff, Brian and I, since that's one of his facilities, to chat with those people and find out more particulars. And if it doesn't mean that it's going to turn into a food warehouse forever, at this point in time, there are no rentals.
Right.
Are they bringing truckloads of food into that facility? Is that what they're going to be doing? Because it doesn't have a dock.
Right, and those are the things that I'll need to have a conversation with them about.
We also talked about the Macy's building. That has a dock. That's basically set up for freight. That would be the more ideal location.
Well, as we discussed yesterday, there's another group that's utilizing that as Pelican.
But you're going to be restricted by the type of trucks up there and everything.
Right, I mean, those are all the things, but if you don't have any objections, if I can find out more, because there's, 2 weeks or more in between council times. If it looks reasonable, would I have your authority to enter into a short-term arrangement with Orca for their food share project?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go and sin no more.
Yes, thank you. And finally, on that, in that same kind of realm, we're reaching out to Tribal One with respect to the public safety usages for the casino and hotel. What we had discussed in closed session has been forwarded to them, but again, in the eventuality that it's sometime in between, do we have your authority to sign that agreement that would toll the time periods for coming to a conclusion, should the tribes also agree with that? And we're looking to, tribes are paid through the end of June. And so we would like, and we reached out to them to see if they would be amenable to postponing coming to firm conclusion until after the May ballot. Rather than go through a number of meetings. So that's all. I'm not asking to sign off an agreement that you don't know anything about. It's just on the agreement to total the time periods.
So postpone the discussion before.
Yeah, till all facets of,
Okay.
of the issues are resolved, so we can just do it once instead of 2 times.
Yes.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Okay. That's all I have.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. New council committee report. Council comments. Mike, you want to start with council comments?
I had a couple of things. One, we get tired of staying at home. We're whittling our way through it. And we've seen things hopefully on the national level that'll push it through. And the 3 states on the West Coast are trying to talk. Amen. Hallelujah. Maybe they can get together. And the other couple of things is that our urban renewal exterior program, Northwest Sports, looks very, very nice with their new windows. We had part of that. And you can see through them to the displays of their stuff now. And it looks very nice. I think they need just a paint job on the outside of the plaster job.
Just can't get ice cream there.
What's that?
You just can't get ice cream there.
Yeah, yeah. And then the other one is the north side of Sven Backman's building on Virginia, getting corner to the North End Hotel. It looks like they're getting real close to finishing the basement area of the I guess it's the exits out of the basement apartments. And it's looking very nice. Wondered how they were going to do it, but it looks nice. And so anyway, those are 2 that we've had our hand in, and it's result of urban renewal money. It makes our area look nice, which is what urban renewal money is supposed to do. And it's good to be back at these chambers.
How about you, Tim?
Well, I just had 2 things I wanted to raise. One of them was, as we walk around the area, of course, there's a lot less cars and things going around these particular days. But I think the thing that amazed me is the real resiliency and how everybody is playing in the game. People are helping out people. Folks focus on, your favorite restaurant and you go get takeout from them and leave a tip as well as you're going on. And I really think that bodes well for our sense of community. Folks are doing a great job in a tough situation, and it's really exciting to see what everybody is doing. And let's keep it together. Even though you may be in the house more than you want to be, but you guys are doing a great job. And I think we as Coos County in our area are really doing well in this overall situation. Anyhow, I want to compliment everybody on that one and keep it up. And then our council president yesterday mentioned that it was his birthday. And then he went out and said, it is my anniversary tomorrow, which is today, and it's my wife's birthday on Thursday. So for Bill and Becky and your anniversary, happy birthday and happy anniversary.
Thank you. Thank you very much. My wife is pleased to you.
How many years is it?
41.
Wow.
41. Jessica?
All right. So I first of all want to say thank you to all the essential workers out there in the community, like pulling us together, making sure that they're there so we can get our groceries and IT services and hospital workers and everything. It's just, I do appreciate everybody who's working hard. My colleagues at the college worked really hard to make sure that all classes could be put online that we're offering. So again, lots of technology support there. That was making that happen, and teachers who maybe hadn't used that technology before that just figured it out and ramped it up. So our college is still happening. We actually still have some students out there in the dorms that are making sure that they're staying within their social distancing, but we still provided that for them. And then my daughters are taking North Bend high school and middle school classes on Zoom and with their Google Classroom, and so we're keeping it going, and it definitely doesn't happen by itself. It's everybody's working together to make that happen. So I know that this is like a really difficult time, and we've got to figure out how we, the businesses that are operating, that are doing takeout, support them the best that we can. A great takeout from Titus, trying to see last night, so love for them and their orange chicken. So but again, thank you to everybody.
All right.
Okay, well, you know, when you, with regards to Simpson Park and stuff, when you see as much disinformation has been spread so quickly, I would urge people to become involved with their city, attend the meetings, attend the work sessions, become a committee member. And I think that's the easiest way to stop the spread of things like that. And I also want to thank the city, Terrence, Renee. These are trying times, and what you've been able to do and put together with this, being able to broadcast this meeting, thank you very much. I know you guys worked your tails off, so appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, I just got a couple things. Mostly, I do want to thank all the people that are out there every day still working, including my guys. They're out there every day picking up the trash and recycling it. Things are, going right along. We've had to make some adjustments around the times and stuff of getting things, accomplished, but they're doing it. Our office is closed right now to walk-in traffic, but you can pay online. There's several ways to pay your bill or get information. Several of my employees are working remotely from their homes. My CSRs are all working at their homes. So they're making a pretty big sacrifice along with everybody else. Anyway, my hat's off to the businesses that are hanging in there. We're, working with every one of those people to try to keep their businesses going, help them along. They're late on their bills. We're not penalizing them. We're, encouraging them to, either decrease service or go on vacation stops or whatever they need to do to make it through. We are eating out a lot more, it seems like to me, than we ever have. Tonight, we actually had eons for dinner, Northman business. So, and we're supporting both Tuesday and North business, on that. But anyway, hopefully everybody got a chance to watch this meeting tonight. This is a first, so I feel pretty honored to actually share this first meeting online and on Zoom and on YouTube. Anyway, is there any other business?
No, sir.
If there's no other business, we stand adjourned. Thank you all for attending.
Good job.